Hello, my dear students and the rest of the learners. Welcome to this presentation in which we are going to learn about computer input devices. My name is Meme JM and I run a channel, a YouTube channel by the name MLSwap ICT. In this presentation, we are going to learn about the introduction to ICT devices, the methods of inputting data into the computer, the keying devices, and the direct entry devices, which we are going to categorize into three. Number one, the screen pointing and touch devices. Number two, the scanning and the sensor devices. And number three, the audio and video input devices. When we talk about computer input devices, we are referring to the devices that are used for getting data or instructions into the computer by accepting it and entering it into the CPU from the external environment by converting the human readable data into electronic or machine readable form. The input unit is therefore composed of all the input devices. When we talk about input, we are referring to a collection of raw data at the start of information processing cycle, whereby information processing cycle is the full set of operations that take place from collection of data to be input to the availability of information. Inputting is therefore the process of entering data or instructions into the computer from the outside world through the use of input devices. And these input devices are of two kinds. These are the keyboard entry devices that we also refer to as keying devices, and the direct entry devices. Before you make a decision as to which input device you are going to use, it is important that you select a data entry method. And therefore, the four main factors that you need to consider when selecting a data entry method are the user's need, the type of data to be input, the volume of data entry, and the cost to be incurred. And therefore, the three main things that you need to be concerned with during the input process are the method that we are going to use to prepare the data, the type of processing to be used, and the accuracy of the data that is being entered. Therefore, the following are the methods that you can use to input data into the computer. The first method is direct user. This includes the use of devices such as keyboard, the mouse, touch screen, light pen, joystick, trackball, amongst others that we are going to learn in this presentation. Number two, document. It includes devices such as the OCR, MICR, and OCR. The third method is called voice input. This method entails the use of discrete voice recognition, that is DVR, and continuous voice recognition that we abbreviate as CVR. The fourth method is magnetic media, which includes the use of tapes and discs. The fifth method is barcode readers. This includes the OMBR. The sixth method is the use of card readers. It includes use of bunch readers, magnetic stripe recognition, and smart card readers. The seventh method is graphics. There is a use of devices such as laser scanners, video scanner, digital camera, graphic pens, also called digitizers. And the other method is the use of biometrics. Biometric systems, RFID, and sensors are used in this method. The main factors that you need to consider when selecting an input device that we're going to use include, number one, device cost. This is the initial and the current cost, which should be weighed against the expected benefits and or operation characteristics of the facility. Number two, data volume. This entails the use of device that should cope with the data volume to be input and the appropriate timings. The third factor is device reliability. The device selected should be one known to have a success record in the market on the application it is to be required for. The next factor is device accuracy. The data being input should be accurate and give confidence and appropriateness in the intended application. The fifth factor is the mode of operation. The choice of input medium to be used should depend much on the nature of the system, that is the data processing system. The sixth factor is appropriateness. One should weigh the merits and demerits of the concerned facility in the light of where it is to be applied or used. And the seventh factor is the device speed. A device selected should be one that is faster in entering data into the computer based on how fast the response is required. And the following are therefore some examples of input devices. This is just a list of some of the diagrams that indicate some of the devices that we can use without categorizing them in any way. Examples are touchpad, touch screen, joystick, digital camera, smart card, scanner, trackball, cell phone, sensors, barcode readers, trackball, pointing stick, readers, mouse, keyboard, amongst the others. Let's therefore commence with the first category, which is keyboard entry devices that we have also called the keying devices. These are the devices that are used for entering data into the CPU through typing with the use of keys. The two main devices that are used in this manner are the keypad and the keyboard. What is the keypad? A keypad is a miniature or tiny keyboard which is mostly used on small portable computers, calculators, palm notes, and mobile phones. And an example is as illustrated. The keyboard. The two basic keyboard designs are the traditional or plain design and the contour design that has splits and slopes. Of course, there are other types of designs, but they borrow from the contour design and the traditional design. So the two main types of keyboards are the alphanumeric keyboard and special function keyboards. The alphanumeric keyboard is the one that contains letters, numbers, and symbols in particular layouts and is modeled on the typewriter keyboard whose keys are the top left are QWERTY, that is Q, W, E, R, T, Y. The special purpose keyboards are those that are invented for a particular purpose. For example, we have the Braille keyboard. This is a keyboard that has its keys marked with raised dots in order to aid the blind in typing or entering data into the computer or any other ICT device through typing. The second is the concept keyboard. It has a flat bed of contact switches that are covered by a flexible membrane and superimposed with whole ones, pictures, or symbols over each other and each contact switch. Number 3 is the left-handed keyboards. This is a keyboard designed for the left-handed individuals. And the fourth is the virtual or projection keyboard. It is projected onto the surface and touched, thus registering your finger movement and hence translate that movement into a keystroke. The 3 ways in which the keyboards have been designed for the purposes of increasing the speed in typing by the users are, number 1, some keys are repeated more than once on various positions on the keyboard so that they can be accessed easily. Number two, the letters on the keys have not been arranged in lines according to their alphabetical order. In other words, the characters are not numbered in their order and they are not arranged in their order from A to Z. Number three, they have varied shapes and designs. The other category of input devices is what we call the direct entry input devices. These are devices that create machine-readable data that can go directly to the CPU. The direct entry devices can be categorized in three ways, either as number one, a screen pointing and touch devices, number two, scanning and sensor devices, and number three, the audio and video input devices. What are screen pointing and touch devices? These are the devices that enter data or instructions into the CPU by controlling a special pointer or cursor and enable the control and selection of objects on the display, that is the screen, used by the graphical operating systems. These devices include mouse, trackball, joystick, light pen, touch screen, touchpad, pointing stick, stylus, digitizer, gamepad, gaming wheel, digital notebook. Let's describe mouse. Mouse is a device that is moved on a flat surface so as to control the movement of the pointer or the cursor on the screen. A cursor is a blinking underscore or a vertical beam that shows where the next character to be typed will appear. In case a mouse is to be used on a surface that is not flat, a mousepad can be used to provide a flat surface on which the mouse can be made to slide while in use. Mouse is therefore used to ensure that instructions are issued in the CPU and it makes selections on the screen by pressing its buttons. There are three main types of mouse. These are, number one, the mechanical mouse. This is a pointing device that has a ball on the bottom that causes the pointer on the screen to move as the ball rolls. And therefore, the mechanical mouse is normally the traditional mouse, the very first mouse to be used with computers. The second is optical mouse. An optical mouse is a pointing device that senses movement with red light and moves the cursor accordingly. And the third type is the wireless mouse. The wireless mouse is a pointing device that sends signals about its movement to your computer by means of waves, and it comes with a receiver that you plug into a computer. And the diagrams for each of these types of mouse is and are as indicated. The second device is trackball. A trackball is a variation of the mouse, but with a rotating or rolling ball fixed on its top side that is used to control the pointer on the screen by rotating it using the index finger or the palm of the hand and then clicking its button to execute the selected command. This picture illustrates a trackball. Now, its advantage over the mouse is that it neither requires an extra space nor a flat surface for movement, and therefore it is intended for use where desktop space is limited or not available. The third device is touchpad, which is also called the touch surface. This is a mouse replacement used on laptop computers that is used to control the pointer by moving and tapping your finger on the small flat surface, which is about 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, which is sensitive to pressure and motion. The buttons placed close to this surface allow for selection of features of the screen, as you can see on the illustrations indicated. The fourth device is pointing stick. This is a device that looks like a pencil top eraser that replaces the mouse on laptop computers and is located in the middle of the keyboard and used to control the pointer by directing the tiny rod with your forefinger. The buttons placed close to it allow for selection of features on the screen, and this pointing stick is as illustrated in this diagram. The fifth device is called touch screen. This is a touch-sensitive monitor covered with a plastic layer that enables someone to select actions or commands by touching the screen with a finger, whereby the computer detects the position of the finger and responds accordingly. They are mostly used in places where keyboards would be prone to damage due to environmental or other factors, or where there is little space for the keyboard. For example, in banking halls, hotels, restaurants, and airports. There are three forms of touch screens, which are the pressure-sensitive, capacitive surface or capacitive surface, and the light pen or the light beam touch screens. The sixth device is joystick. This is an electronic device that looks like a candy lever used for playing video games through controlling game actions by varying pressure, speed, and direction with the use of buttons and triggers. It controls the movement on the screen with a vertical handle and programmable buttons. As you can see, those are some examples of three devices that we are calling the joystick. The seventh device is the gamepad. This is a multifunction input device that includes programmable buttons, thumbsticks, and a directional pad, all used for playing games. The eighth device is a gaming wheel. This is an input device that uses a steering wheel and a separate set of foot pedals to imitate real while driving. Ninth device is light pen. This is an electronic handheld pen-like device that has a light-sensitive photoelectric cell at its tip and is directed at a special screen to control operations by making selections, playing images, drawings, and indicating dimensions. It reacts to the light emitted by the display using the photosensitive detector at its base, thus transferring the illustration into the computer for further processing. The light pen can be used to read and write information to the screen. It is used mainly for design work and is used by engineers, graphic designers, and illustrators. Our 10th device is digitizers. They are also called graphic tablets or digitizing tablets. A digitizer is a device that contains a flat surface board that detects the position of a stylus or a punch on its surface, thus enabling text, drawings, or photographs made on it using a stylus to be directly reflected on the screen. And these two diagrams illustrate a digitizer together with its punch or stylus. A stylus is a pen-like pointing device used for writing text, tracing, or copying and drawing or a photograph on the digitizing tablet. A punch is a mouse-like device which is moved over the surface of the graphics tablet and has crosshairs to position it accurately and a number of buttons for different actions. They are mostly used in computer-aided design work by architects and engineers for tracing and drawing maps and diagrams into the computer for further work using graphic programs. The 11th device that we are going to discuss is digital notebook. This is an input device used for taking notes and make use of a regular notepad on which a special pen is moved as a signal tracing your movements. This signal is sent to and stored on an electronic pad from which the notes are transferred to a microcomputer where they can be viewed, organized, and edited as needed. They record handwriting as digital data. Our 12th device is called interactive whiteboard. An interactive whiteboard is also known as a smartboard, and it is a large interactive display that connects to a computer. The computer display is projected onto the whiteboard's surface, where users control the computer and write using a pen or a finger. The board is typically mounted to a wall or on the floor. The second category of direct entry devices is called the scanning and sensor devices. These are the data capture devices that directly sense data or instructions from the source into the CPU in form of electronic signals with no requirement for verification because the transcription process is eliminated. Data capture is therefore an automated input technique where keying of input data is eliminated by data being obtained in a computer-sensible form at the point of origin and is run directly by a suitable device into the CPU. Therefore, the main advantage of using data capture method for inputting data into the computer, regardless of the environment of data collection, is that many of the problems of data entry and other related errors are avoided. The scanning and sensor devices record images of text, drawings, special symbols, real objects, or physical quantities, and convert them to digital data that can be processed by a computer or displayed on a monitor. These devices capture data either through the use of special type of concentrated beam of light, magnetism, or use of sensors. The scanning and sensor devices can be classified into 3 categories according to the technology they use to capture data. These are either optical scanners, magnetic scanners, or biometric scanners. Optical scanners. These capture data with the use of a special type of concentrated beam of light that is passed over the object, image, or text, which need to be entered into the computer, which is then converted into digital form and passed to the computer for processing. Examples of such scanners include the optical mark recognition, abbreviated as OMR, the optical bar recognition, OBR, optical character recognition, OCR, image or laser scanners, the facsimile machine, and remote control. The optical mark recognition is also called mark sensing. It is a scanner used to detect or sense the presence or absence of a soft pen or pencil mark made on a piece of paper when an infrared light is passed through it. It detects the possession of black marks made on a white paper. The intensity of the reflected light from these marks is detected, and the computer records the possession of the marks and analyzes it to determine the meaning of the data. It is used for marking multiple choice questions, marking questionnaires, selecting numbers in lottery tickets, insurance premium collection, traffic surveys, and voters registration process. What are optical bar recognition device? OBR is also called the barcode readers. They are scanners used for reading and interpreting item information, which is recorded or printed on a product container in form of vertical zebra-striped marks that we call the barcodes. This diagram illustrates the barcodes and a barcode reader. The barcodes, or a barcode, is a set of vertical lines of different thickness with a string of numbers printed at the bottom that hold item information. The name of the code used for coding numbers in barcode strips found in most products is called UPC, or Universal Product Code, or EAN, which stands for European Article Number. They are mostly used in supermarkets at the point of sale, that is POS terminals, in libraries during return or lending of books, in stores for reading retail price tags, and on labels and shelves for stock taking. A point of sale terminal is an electronic cash register that is linked to a computer or that records data onto cassette or cartridge, which is then transmitted to the computer for processing. EFTPOS, which stands for Electronic Funds Transfer at the Point of Sale, is where a customer's bank account or credit account is debited at the point of sale terminal. What are the main advantages of using barcode readers? Some of them include, number one, the customers get a quicker, more accurate service, which improves efficiency. Number two, supermarkets, grocery stores, and retail shops can get instant or continuous stock checks. Number three, they save on paperwork. Number 4, the type of item or price does not have to be repeatedly written or typed using a keyboard or any other keying device. Optical character recognition, OCR. These are scanners used for reading special pre-printed characters from paper using light from a reflected light, which is then changed into machine readable code. Sophisticated software allows each patterns to be compared with a set of stored patterns until the closest match is found. This match is then translated into electronic text in the computer, so it can be manipulated by useful in legal profession, by researchers to search and archive documents, in letter mailing systems to read addresses, in airports by migration officers to read passports quickly, in producing turnaround documents which are produced as output and reused as input by the computer, in billing systems, as well as in credit card systems. The main advantages of OCR are, number 1, they are used for converting large volumes of printed data into a form that can be manipulated on the computer. Number 2, they are used to create computer archives of old printed books and documents, therefore presenting them in searchable electronic form for the future. Number 3, the contents of the document are both human and machine sensible and can therefore be read and checked by people. Number 4, we have what we call image or laser scanners. A scanner is an input device that creates an electronic image of text, images, maps, and so on that your computer can use. An image scanner is the most sophisticated type of scanner used in desktop publishing to scan text, real objects, or pictures, reproducing the image that can be displayed on the screen, printed on paper, or stored in the computer system for later use. The 4 main types of image scanners are the flatbed scanner, handheld scanners, drum scanner, and sheet-fed scanner. A flatbed scanner is a scanner that works like a photocopy machine, whereby the object to be scanned is placed on a glass plate and its image is recorded from below. Example of a flatbed scanner. Number 2, we have handheld scanners. This is also called portable scanner. It is a scanner that reads in the picture while the user slides it across the image, making direct contact. The quality of the image provided by this scanner is poor, but it's useful for quick data capture. Number 3, we have drum scanners. These are very sensitive and expensive scanners used in the publishing industry to capture images with high detail. The 4th type is the sheet-fed scanners. These are scanners used for reading images from a sheet or paper that is fed into it through rollers, and the image is scanned as the paper passes through. The 5th device is the facsimile machine. This is a device that scans the image of a document to be sent, converting it into a format that can be sent electronically over telephone lines, after which the receiving fax machine converts the signals back to the image and recreates it on paper. The 6th device is the remote control. A remote control emits a beam of infrared light that carries data signals. They are commonly used for input to televisions, stereo systems, VCRs, and DVD players. They are also being used by computers as a wireless means of communication. The 2nd category of scanners are the magnetic scanners. These are scanners that capture data that is either in form of special magnetic characters, continuous magnetic strip, or memory chip by using magnetic technology. They therefore capture data using magnetic technology. The 3 most common examples of such scanners include magnetic ink character recognition, abbreviated as MICR, magnetic stripe recognition, and smart card readers. What is a magnetic ink character recognition, or MICR? This is a scanning device used in banks to help process checks by automatically reading the magnetic characters or numbers on the bottom of checks written in special format and made of ink containing magnetized particles. The cheques are passed through a MICR sorter that reads specifically printed numbers, which appear at the bottom of cheques, which contains traces of iron. As numbers pass through the sorter, the iron tracings are magnetized, then interpreted by the reading device, which has 14 characters stored in memory to which the number or the symbol can be compared. After the cheques are automatically sorted, they are removed and sent to the appropriate cities and particular branches where they were drawn. The main advantages of using MICR include the documents are difficult to forge, and number two, the documents can still be read after being written on, forwarded, shelved, etc. However, the disadvantages that MICR has is that readers and encoders are very expensive, and the system can accept only a few characters. MICR are used in banking industry for cheques and some local authorities for payment of rates by instrument. Number two, we have magnetic stripe recognition. This is a scanning device used for reading and interpreting information recorded in a thin magnetic tape, often found at the back of a plastic card, for example, an ATM card and a credit card. A magnetic strip is a short length of magnetic cotton tape that is printed on the surface of or sealed into a ticket or card, and it contains information to identify the ticket or card and its user. The automated teller machine or ATM card is used to get banking services without necessarily going to the counter, while a credit card allows the holder to get financial services in any center where the card is acceptable. The main advantages of magnetic strip cones include, number one, they are easy and cheap to produce. Number two, the strip can store enough information for simple transactions. Number three, they cut down on paperwork that would otherwise be involved in a transaction. Some of the main disadvantages of these devices are, number one, the data can be changed, altered, forged, or erased by magnetic fields. Number two, the strip can be damaged by scratching. And number three, the strip can store only a limited amount of information. These devices are therefore used to, number one, provide quick identification of people entering in buildings, allowing access to card holder for security purposes. Number two, in phone cards and debit cards for cell phones. Number three, by customers of banks and credit card companies to get cash from ATM machines or buying goods with plastic rather than cash. Number three, we have smart card, that is also called the chip card reader. What is this device? A smart card reader is a special device used for reading information that is stored in a smart card. A smart card is therefore a card that is similar to debit card that is used in ATMs, but with a very thin gold-colored memory chips sealed into them that provides a big security advantage and store more information than magnetic strip cards. The data is stored on the memory chip in the card, allowing a great amount of information to be kept, and up in the case with the old-style magnetic strip. The chips can hold information for cell phone use, debit and credit cards, and any prepaid services. They can also store information about a person's history, voice prints, that is recordings of the holder's voice, fingerprints, and retina scans. The advantage of using smart card is that the chip can store a good deal of information, including personal information, help the owner of the card. However, the use of smart cards has disadvantages too. Some of these disadvantages include the chip can potentially be damaged. Number two, the chip and the machine produce than the old-style magnetic strip. Biometric scanners. What are biometrics? Biometrics is the automatic identification of a person based on his or her individual body characteristics. Therefore, it is the science of identifying an individual through their body characteristics, such as face geometry, fingerprints, hand geometry, that's the pattern of lines on your hand, iris, retina, vein, and voice. The scanners used for identifying an individual and input into a computer system set up for security purposes are called biometric scanners. They include Biometric systems, RFID, and direct entry input sensors. What are biometric systems? These are devices used to allow access to buildings, bank accounts, and other security purposes. Biometric technologies require the person to be identified is physically present at the point of identification. They can prevent unauthorized use of ATMs, cellular phones, smart cards, desktop PCs, workstations, and computer networks. Fingerprint readers scan the imprint made by the pattern of ridges in the finger and compare it to a set of patterns that are stored in the memory. The retinal scans use a ray of light which is directed into the eye to identify the distinct networks of blood vessels at the back of the eye. This method of identifying an individual is becoming convenient and more accurate than current methods such as use of passwords or PIN. PIN stands for personal identification numbers. The other type or the other device is RFID. RFID stands for radio frequency identification device. It uses radio waves as a means of identifying animals, persons, and objects. A chip connected to a small antenna makes up the RFID transponder or RFID tag. Information such as serial number is transmitted to an RFID receiver that converts the radio waves to digital information so that it can be processed by the computer. Number 3, we have direct input sensors. These are devices linked to computers and used to record chemical or physical changes in humans and their environment by converting these changes to electrical signals using sensors that pass information to a computer where it is analyzed, stored, and manipulated by a specialist software. They are useful in the areas of medicine, environmental planning, and preservation, weather reporting, amongst others. A variety of sensors can be used to measure such things as heat, light, sound, pressure, strain, acidity, pH, oxygen concentration, humidity, pulse, water level, water flow, speed, tilt, or even something like a door or valve closing or opening. The other category of direct entry devices are the audio and video input devices. These are the devices that are used for entering data and instructions into the CPU, either through the use of a microphone, electronic music instruments, or cameras that capture both still and video images that is accompanied by sound. The main types of audio and video input devices are, number 1, voice recognition systems, number 2, sound capture, number 3, MIDI instruments, number 4, digital cameras, and number 5, digital video camera. What is voice data entry or voice or speech recognition devices? These are devices that accept data that is in form of spoken ones, that is a person's speech, through a microphone and convert it into a digital code. The 3 main types of microphones that can be used are desktop microphone, the headsets, and directional microphones. Directional microphones are input devices that consist of a box or boxes, each containing of 1 or more microphones. A voice recognition system, abbreviated as VRS, is the combination of a microphone, a sound card, and the appropriate software that allows users to control operations and create documents using voice commands. The 2 types of voice recognition systems are, number 1, discrete speech. These are the devices that directly convert the spoken word that the user dictates through a microphone into printed material with the use of a special program that recognizes individuals and stores them in a file. Number 2, continuous speech. They are able to recognize individuals and phrases in context, thus accepting dictation as well as spoken commands to operate many of today's applications. An automatic speech recognition, abbreviated as ASR system, captures your speech and can distinguish your ones and one groupings to form sentences. The computer is programmed to recognize certain patterns of speech. Using a microphone, human speech is coded into a sequence of electronic signals. And these signals are compared to a set of stored patterns. if they match, the command or data being entered is accepted by the computer and is then processed. It is mainly suitable for the handicapped, especially those with movement facilities or difficulties, such as the paralyzed, who with suitable equipment can now operate a wheelchair, lighting, and even open doors using voice commands, and where hands are involved in other activities, for example, by people in laboratories and in airplanes. Therefore, the four main situations in which speech recognition devices may be used as a method of data entry are: number one, for people with special needs, that is the handicapped. Number two, in language translator programs. Number three, voice tags for voice dialing. Number four, situations where human limbs are engaged, for example, by a pilot while flying a flight or an aeroplane. The main disadvantages of voice recognition systems are: number one, recognition once is slow. Number two, it's complex to develop. Number three, it does not take care of speech-related problems. Number four, it must be trained to learn the unique speech of an individual by matching the user's spoken ones to patterns that have been previously stored in a computer. Number five, background noise can disrupt the data entered. Number six, they have limited vocabulary. Sound capture device. All modern computers contain a built-in microphone for sound capture. This enables an individual to make comments and embed them in a word processing document. A sound card is required in the computer for recording voice or music information into a form that the computer can understand. This diagram, we can see an illustration of a sound card, the one that I have highlighted. So this is a card which is bought and then it is inserted into the system unit. And then we have some microphones here that are connected to the sound card. Then we have what we call the MIDI instruments. The electronic music instruments can have a MIDI port. MIDI stands for Music Instruments Digital Interface, for input into the computer. The sounds are digitized and stored as a file and can be displayed on the screen, edited, and played back using appropriate software. Number four are the digital cameras. These are input devices that captures still and or voice motion pictures, photos, or images and records them digitally on a disk or store them in a digital form in the memory from which they can be streamed or entered directly into the computer for editing or printing by connecting the camera to a computer using a special cable or inserting the memory card or stick into the computer through the appropriate port. These diagrams illustrate some of those cameras. The digital cameras have a sensor that converts light and sound into electrical changes, and then the processor in the camera converts this information into digital data and stores it in a small diskette, flash memory, or flash RAM card. Flash RAM is a non-volatile, and thus images in it are not lost when the camera is switched off, but it can be erased so that more images can be captured. The two types of cameras, therefore, are the digital still image camera, also called photo cameras, and number two, digital video cameras that are sometimes referred to as the camcorder. What are digital still image cameras? These are cameras that have specialized in capturing and recording only still pictures that are not in motion. Digital video cameras are the cameras that are specialized in capturing and recording images in motion as well as the sound produced. The camera takes many pictures per second to give an impression of movement. The main advantage of digital cameras are photos can be shown on a small screen on the camera and resized and erased as you go along so that you can store only the images that you really want. The main disadvantages of cameras are, number one, the sharpness and the color balance of an image may not be as good as with a traditional film-based camera. It is relatively easy to lose or erase camera's memory card. Due to technological advancement, some cellular phones are also being used as digital cameras to capture data that is then streamed into the computer for further processing. We have come to the end of this topic on input devices. I therefore congratulate you for choosing to acquire computer ICT knowledge and skills through us and from us using the video posted in our YouTube channel by the name MLSwap ICT. You can search for more computer or ICT topics from MLSwap ICT YouTube channel. In addition, you can search for life skills and motivational topics from our other YouTube channel by the name MLSwap Enterprises International. Kindly click on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell in both of the YouTube channels so that once a video is uploaded into the website or into this channel, you can be able to receive current updates from both of the channels. In case you need any additional information or you want to share with us any correspondence, you can write to us through our email, which is mlswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me. Be blessed as you continue pursuing much knowledge in the field of ICT or computers.